for some teleporting and some spells, perhaps. And the white mage will be mostly for healing, but may also be using some items that cast spells. So we're going to pick those 4 specifically. We're going to arrange them in a very specific order to start out the game here. And you can see it's the same for everyone here. And we just got the command that they're going to start the race in 10 seconds.
Yep, about to get started here.
So to quickly explain before they get started here, there's going to be a lot of RNG in this run, and things are going to go fast. We may miss things. We'll do our best to keep track of everything, but there's a lot going on in this run, and it happens very quickly, so we'll just see what we can do here. The earliest thing they're going to do here is they're going to enter the opening town right away, purchase a hammer, perform the equipment glitch, which allows them to basically create items out of nowhere and equip armor. They could basically duplicate armor out of nowhere and then equip it on multiple slots, including slots that it was never intended to, and for characters it was never intended to. And right off the bat, they're not going to be doing this, so they're going to go right into the town, buy 1 hammer from the weapon shop, and then some of them may exit the town from that after doing a little glitching where they turn the hammer into a piece of equipment known as the knight's armor on their characters. This is normally only something you could purchase in Melman much later in the game for a lot more money, and gives our characters a lot of defense right off the bat, so our characters are going to be pretty well protected against many of the attacks that the random encounters can give us in this early going here. So we see Soma basically went in, glitched it, and then walked out of town, as there's this little bit of a strategy shift between players is whether or not they want to purchase some supplies here in town, or if they want to wait until Provoke It, which is the next town over.
Yeah, it seems like Soma was the only one to do that. Everyone else bought their items in Cornelia.
Yes, my knowledge. Soma will be. Yeah, we'll see. Soma is using the. I believe he's using the Black Mage Lust Dagger route.
Ah, the same one that I use.
Yeah.
I do like that route.
Kibetha, I know, is fond of the White Magic, or the White Mage Lust Dagger route, and Cleric and Stray, I think. Not sure which each of them is using yet. We'll see as we go. So once they're all set in Cornelia, they head out of town, and the first objective is to head to the Chaos Shrine up here and confront the Cornelian Knight Garland, who has fled from service and kidnapped the princess. And so he goes right up there to confront him. Everyone here is basically just making their way along here. They have no need for any of these encounters here, and with the knight's armor they have on, nobody's really at risk of dying or anything, so we're just going to run away from every encounter here and not worry about it. We see on Kib and Soma's side that they've reached this little treasure room here in the corner of the shrine, and they've picked up a leather cap from this chest here. They're going to perform another equipment glitch with that. They're going to turn it into a piece of armor, or actually a weapon, in this case called the Judgment Staff. This is an item that wasn't in the original base game of it. It's only in the GBA and PSP versions of the game. It has more attack than any of the weapons we have in the early going. And normally not all of our characters can equip this weapon, but we're actually just going to put it on all 4 of our characters. And additionally, if you use it in combat, it casts Flare, you know, the strongest black magic spell in the game. So that's a pretty good pickup for really early in the game. Soma's fighting Garland. Kib's already got Garland down. Cleric is just starting the fight. And Stray's in the middle of the fight here. It should just take 4 attacks from our characters to take down Garland, or to knock him down in this case.
Yep. You can already see RNG having an effect on the runners. Soma left Cornelia early, before Kib did, but Kib's already ahead, probably due to encounters and getting maybe just a slightly faster menu.
Now, just a reminder here, well, it looks like Kib's in the lead of these 4 runners. This is actually 2 separate 2-player races here. So it's going to be Kibetha versus Greencleric at top, and Soma versus Straevaras at the bottom here. They're basically 2 independent races going on at the same time here. So each of them will produce 1 winner, and they're both in the winners bracket right now. And the winners of this race will actually meet in the next round. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. And I will be facing the loser of Soma versus Stray. So.
Yeah. I myself am currently lurking in the lower bracket, waiting for my next opponent, who will be determined later tonight. We have 1 more race in this round that will be concluded later tonight. So right now they're just going through some story sections where they have some cutscenes that have to play out before we can move on to the next town, Provoca.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, Soma did get an encounter before the bridge, which is always horrible when that happens. I really hate getting an encounter before that cutscene. And Kib's just making her way over to Provoca.
Okay, so they're working their way over here. And though for the most part they're trying to avoid walking on forest tiles on the overworld, as the game generates each step you take on this can raise your threat rate, and which caps out after a certain number of steps, and then when you get an encounter it resets back to 0. So basically forest tiles and some other tiles, they raise the threat rate at a different rate, forest raising them at a higher rate than others. So they're going to try to avoid that if they can do that. Mostly be walking on these plains or some of these marsh tiles, these little swampy looking tiles over here. So we see Stray getting into a fight with as many as 4 different enemies. They're all really just trying to avoid having problematic encounters where they can't flee. There's nothing that they cannot flee from this early on, but there are some enemies that may be more problematic to run from than others, including wolves. So they're trying to avoid that as much as possible, but they can't really control what encounters they get here. So they're just going to have to deal with what they got. Kib has made it to Provoca here, and there's a little pirate problem here in Provoca. So we confront the pirate leader and get into this fight here with the pirates. Easiest way for us to deal with them is using that judgment staff we glitched back in the Chaos Shrine, because otherwise we would have to spend 3 rounds of combat smacking them one by one with our judgment staffs. So we use Flare, which takes about 8 seconds to cast, but does more than enough damage to wipe these guys out in one go. So everybody's in the fight right now, just cleaning it up.
And as we touched on earlier, Soma is now doing the item shop in Provoca, getting some ethers, which is very important for the Black Mage route.
Yeah, Kib went and picked up a leather shield, so yeah, she's probably going to go with the Lust Dagger White Mage route, which means she's going to be primarily using her White Mage to clear unrunnable groups of enemies later on, but she's going to be using some items in her inventory to do it. The difference with Soma is Soma's going to be using spells and MP with his Black Mage to be clearing those groups if he runs into them. So there's some slight differences in equipment and party setup to get those going on, but the routes are roughly equivalent in terms of which is faster than the other.
Yeah. One of the main benefits to get to the Black Mage route is that you get access to Thundara pretty quickly, after Astos, if you do it correctly, if you get a high enough level. That way you can use Thundara to clear the ship encounters after, which is quite quickly if you can't escape from them.
Yeah, Stray actually had an encounter with a shark, and he didn't trust that he would be able to run from it, so he opted to kill it. Again, there's nothing they can't run from at this going. There are encounters later on in the run that they cannot run from, and you get no feedback in this game if you try to run from an encounter that is actually unrunnable. So you can try as much as you want to try to run from it, and the game won't say you can't run from it, but you literally will not run from it. Cleric doing some green needle shopping, or gold needle shopping, I'm sorry. Here
and
in
Soma
Alpha.
getting an ambush with wolves, which is a very tricky encounter to get, because all the wolves go first, and wolves are quite difficult to run from. But fortunately, he gets away pretty quickly from it.
Stray has taken down a group of wolves here that he must be having a problem with, so he must not want to be messing around with them. You may see runners opt to use their judgment staff or otherwise kill enemies if they fail to run for a round or two. Stray is lagging a little bit, probably behind where he'd like to be at this point, but a lot of it's just the RNG that he's encountered. There's going to be a lot of it. I mean, there is certainly an execution element and to this run, but the RNG plays more of a factor in it than the execution does. With good execution and RNG, you might see runners complete this in under an hour 30. With some more RNG, you might see them complete it anywhere to like 130 to 140. And the very worst runs, even for good runners with good execution, may be as high as 140. So we'll see.
Yeah, and one of the main reasons why this game is so easy and, well, and good to race is that anyone can beat anyone, because it does come down to RNG quite often.
You might say it's chaotic then.
You might say, indeed.
So they reached their next destination, the marsh cave over here, and there's a key item in a treasure chest on the 3rd basement floor that they need. So Kib actually entered that and is stepped in front of the treasure chest, and that triggers a fight here with these Pisco demons. This is an unrunnable encounter, and anytime you step on this tile, you're forced to encounter between 2 and 4 of them. The easiest way for us to deal with them at this point is going to be using our Judgment Staff as an item with the mages primarily to kill them, because that will do more than enough. Usually does about 100 or 200 depending on if the character high rolls or not, and the Pisco demons only have, I think, 82 HP. So they're not particularly... Everything else we try to run from at this point. Once we've cleared them out, we pick up the crown, the next key item we need, and then we just exit out the way we came in. So I just got to go down 3 floors, pick it up, and go back out. So right now, Soma's in the lead over Stray. Maybe a little bit less than a minute right now, depending on encounters that they get. And Kib's got a slight lead on Greencleric at the moment. But the leads don't matter that much this early in the run. They can stretch out and contract very quickly. Runners can, I mean, if runners get a really good string of RNG, they can easily and quickly catch up multiple minutes over the course of a run, or even within a couple splits.
Yeah, it's happened to me, where I was once like 2 minutes in front of Leo, and then suddenly he caught up and beat me. It can be anything happen.
So we saw Greencleric got poisoned from an enemy there, and if he would continue to run around, he'd basically take 1 point of damage on the poison character, and he doesn't want to do that at this point in the run. So we took a quick menu to just clear that up with the antidotes. We picked up the antidotes with all the supplies we picked up at the very start. Our runners picked up probably enough potions for the entire run, as well as usually 11 or 21 antidotes and usually 10 Phoenix Downs. And some of them may have picked... I believe Soma also picked up some ethers when he did his shopping in Provoca.
Yes.
But he doesn't have any... Yep. He doesn't have any spells yet, so that won't play a factor quite yet.
And on the subject of healing items, you maybe notice that from this point on, all the runners will not be healing their warrior and thief. This is for a very important encounter later on in Ice Cavern, where we want the warrior and the thief to die.
So Kib has already made it up here to the Western Keep with the crown and given it to the Astos, who is posing as the Elf King. So once we get into a fight with Astos, it should be a 1-round fight depending on how what attack he chooses to use opening the fight. If he uses his death attack, it may stretch into 2 rounds usually. But the easiest way to deal with him is usually to attack with your melee characters, use the Judgment Staff with your mage characters, and then the rest of it just depends on what Astos does. So 3 of them are in the fight. Stray's making his way up there to the Western Keep. So Kib with a pretty good time so far.
Yeah. Both Greencleric and Soma got death on their first attack from Astos. So now they have to revive their warrior and try not to heal him up too much.
Yeah, they don't want to heal him up probably more than using 1 potion at this point. A potion restores 50 health, and using a Phoenix Down puts them at 1 HP. So you want that character up there because you want to have an additional character that you can act with in each combat round. But you don't want them to be able to so low that they're basically just going to get knocked down and you have to raise them up again. So yeah, Cleric actually heals twice on his warrior, and actually healed his thief as well. That may be a factor later, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, a nice little trick with using potions is that if you heal twice, like rapidly tap the X, the animation cancels itself out. So it's actually slower to only heal once. But with the warrior and thief, you don't really want to heal any more than once. So it is it's a nice quality of life improvement in this game that you can basically quickly skip animations and repeat animations like spamming potions or casting spells, like healing spells in the menu. So it saves a little time there. It's among the many improvements of this one, which include like improved graphics, improved sound, reduced difficulty, and probably very significantly the ability to save anywhere. And plus, if you're familiar with the NES or the PS1 version, this version of the game has replaced
the spell charge system with an MP system, which was more common in later games. So they don't have to worry about spell charges in this one. They can just pick up items like ethers, which were also a new addition to this version in the GBA version. So they can just use ethers instead and cast the spells, which, you know, rebalances the game a little bit. So after defeating Assos, Kibetha picked up the Crystal Eye, which was stolen from the witch Matoya. She's made it all the way up to Matoya's cave here, which is a little bit north of where we started the game. And she's returning the eye over here. Once we have that, Matoya will reward us with the Jolt Tonic, which we can use to revive the Elf Prince, who was put under a sleeping spell by Astos. So we're in the middle of a kind of a large fetch quest that just keeps going on in the early going here. So they just have to go through all this early section in order to be able to open up a path so that they can sail through to the rest of the ocean, because they're currently a little bit landlocked. So it looks like Kib's in the lead, Greencleric is just behind her, and in the other race we have Soma's in the lead right now, and Stray is trailing a little bit behind as well.
Kib just making her way now back to Elfheim to give the Jolt Tonic. Everyone else just trundling their way through the many encounters that you're going to get. But some runners you can expect like upwards of over like 100 encounters over the course of this run, which is a very large number.
Yeah, even the best runs are probably going to look at 160 to 170 plus random encounters, and runners could easily get over 200 with some poor luck over the course of the entire runs.
Which you may not think is that much, but when you factor in, like, compared to other Final Fantasy games, and the fact this is only an hour and a half, that's a lot of encounters. So you can
it's a lot of encounters. It's a lot of encounters, and even in the best of scenarios, an encounter takes a good 5 or 6 seconds, so they adds up. So 30 encounters at 5 seconds is several minutes.
Yes. I mean, in comparison to games like like Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 9 is like a 9-10-hour speedrun, and you're only going to get like 40, 50 encounters on average. So you can see this game, compared to that, is very, very different. Very RNG heavy.
So here we go. Kib has reached the Elven Castle and awoken the Elven Prince, and that gives her the Mystic Key item, which opens up a number of treasure rooms here. And the first destination she's going to do is this treasure room in the back of the Elven Castle. It's usually quicker to actually just exit the castle and then re-enter it to get there. And then she's going to use this mithril hammer that's in this chest here to turn it into a piece of equipment known as the Thief's Armlet. This is another piece of equipment that wasn't in the base game. It was added in the GBA and PSP versions. It's a post-game item that was added to the bonus dungeons. But using the equipment glitch, we can basically turn the mithril hammer into copies of the Thief's Armlet and put multiple copies on each of our characters. Each copy basically gets them even more defense than they had from the Knight's armor, more evasion, and it has lower weight, which means that characters will act a little bit quicker in combat. And additionally, and probably most importantly, each copy they add adds 5 points of agility, which gives them a huge advantage when determining the turn order of the game, as well as their chances to run away from random encounters. So they should more consistently act earlier in the turn order and should have an easier time running from encounters. And that's going to be basically the goal of this run, is to try to find high agility items that help speed that up throughout the course of the run. And additionally, they're also going to pick up some pieces of equipment that have high intelligence to raise the amount of damage that their mages can do to clear unrunnable groups of enemies.
Yeah, so we're picking up the glitch for the Sage's Staff, which is a key item in the Black Mage route before Lust Dagger and Barbarian Sword.
Yeah, the most recent route development here is there's also a bronze gloves in the treasure room in one of the other chests, and you can turn that into a weapon called the Sage's Staff, which adds 15 points of intelligence. Intelligence actually affects your ability to run away from encounters, but it does not impact your ability to act earlier in the turn order or anything like that. but it also raises your intelligence, which increases the amount of damage your characters do with either magic spells or item-based magic spells.
Yeah, which allows the Black Mage to use Thundara to kill Pisco Demons in the Cavern of Earth.
Yeah, that's the key feature in the early going here.
Nice.
So yeah, it'll be a slight route difference here. Greencleric was in here in Cornelia using the chest in these treasure rooms in the back, and he picked up a mithril knife. A mithril knife can be turned into a black robe, which can be used in combat to cast Blizzara. That'll be a key item he'll be using much later in the run. We pick it up now because it just happens to be there. You can also purchase it in Crescent Lake, but some runners are just more familiar with picking it up there. So Soma is actually here. So it looks like Soma's fallen a little bit behind Greencleric in terms of the overall run so far, but he's still slightly ahead of Stray. Stray looks like he's catching up a bit. Soma opted, since Soma's going to be using the Black Mage and going to be picking up spells, he's not going to be picking up many of these items, such as the Mithril Knife, because he doesn't need to turn certain pieces of equipment into others. So he may be able to skip a couple of glitches, a couple of item pickups and equipment glitches that the others do choose to use. So Soma has the Nitro Powder. Everybody has the Nitro Powder, it looks like, and Stray's about to pick it up. Nope, Stray actually has it, looks like. So then they take it over here to Mount Dwerker and hand it to a dwarf named Narek that is an enthusiast with Nitro Powder. And he blows us open a little canal that we can sail through down here. He has no regard for other dwarven life, though. We're sure that canal probably floods that entire cavern, but we don't stick around to see what happens. So we rip the dwarves. And then Kib now sails through that little opening here, and she's going to head over here to Melmond. And she's going to pick up the most powerful piece of equipment that they're going to be using for a weapon here. We're going to pick up the steel gloves, so we're going to be punching everyone with the steel gloves. I'm just kidding. We're going to turn the steel gloves into the Barbarian Sword. Now, you may not be aware of the Barbarian Sword in this version because it's a PSP exclusive item that is only supposed to be available from defeating the most powerful version of the super boss in the PSP exclusive bonus dungeon, the Labyrinth of Time. So the advantage of the Barbarian Sword is it has a lot of attack power. I mean, the original Excalibur has, I think, 45 attack power in this version, and the Barbarian Sword has 125 attack power. And thankfully, due to the equipment glitch, we can actually quickly just turn that steel gloves into a number of Barbarian Swords for some of our characters. In Kib's case, I think she's only going to be doing it for her melee characters. So the Warrior and the Thief are going to be using this, but it's going to basically way outscale the HP of any of the enemies we run into, except for the Fiends and Chaos. So her melee characters right now are basically capable of one-shotting almost any enemy in the game.
Which you will see very soon.
Yeah. Once we have that, we're all set to go visit our friend the Vampire, whom we casually refer to as Batman, on the Cavern of Earth. So to make our way to Batman, he's down on the 3rd basement floor, and we just have to go through a number of random encounters to get down there. Kib is running into a Pisco Demon fight over here, and these are unrunnable. This is the first area where you're going to find really unrunnable encounters throughout the run. So on this 3rd floor, runners may also opt to take a safety save here, as certain ambushes or enemy formations, if they happen to be ambushes, could be particularly deadly for us if we have not saved. I mean, there could be undead ambushes that could paralyze us. There are cockatrices that could petrify us. And there's just a number of other things. And Kib is getting trolled by a little bat, it looks like, over here in the Earth Cave. They can often get in the way of these little corridors, and there's no way to get around them other than just to push them until they move out of the way. So Kib is getting cockatrices here and is a little worried that might be a problem, so she's queuing up in a Mage's Staff attack with her Black Mage and fleeing with the other characters. That allows her, it basically guarantees that the fight should last only 1 round, as long as her Black Mage is not petrified. Yeah, I mean, our characters, are going to be pretty overpowered, but they're still highly vulnerable to a couple of key status effects. notably paralyze and petrify are really, really bad for us. So if we don't get any enemies with those statuses, then it's not a problem. But if you happen to get ambushed by enemies with that, you can be in trouble. Now, most of our runners should have also picked up gold needles so they can heal petrification. But if they opted not to, that could prove very, very problematic for them. And we'll have to see what happens here. So Kib has already taken down the vampire with an excellent time at 24 minutes. And right behind the vampire is this Star Ruby sitting here. So we don't actually... it's not really a super plot important item right off itself by itself, unless you try to go somewhere else, and then you might find your path blocked by a giant who fancies Star Rubies. So it's a good thing we picked that up. If we try to go deeper in the Earth Cavern at that point, our path is actually going to be blocked. So we have to basically back out of the cave, take another path, and go pick up a key item that will allow us to basically clear that block. But we need the Star Ruby to be able to do that, so we have to go all the way down there, 3 floors, pick up the Star Ruby, and then walk all the way back out. So it's a little annoying of a design, but there's not much we can do about it. So Kib's warrior got petrified in an earlier fight, so she had needles, so she's all okay to do with that if only one character gets petrified. Cleric was getting some, I think, Pisco Demons over here, and since there's only 2 of them, he's actually opting to attack with his melee characters. If there were more of them, he could use the staff to try to clear a larger group, since, I mean, it's runner's choice how they choose to deal with each and every one of these encounters that they run into. Using the memory cursor of the game, you can basically utilize it so that your characters remember what their commands were at the last combat, and you can just hold X and it will repeat the commands for them. And additionally, you can hold L and R at the start of combat to issue an auto flee command to everyone. So runners will be taking advantage of that to try to save time where possible. But if they need to switch up their commands, that will change what the memory cursor remembers for each one of them. So switching back and forth between commands can waste a little bit of time, but we'll have to see what happens. Now we're having a little hairiness on Stray's side. That's 3 characters petrified. That's a problem. That is 4 characters petrified. That is a wipe.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he's saved. I think he might have done. Hopefully. Hopefully he's saved. Oh, no. Stray has forfeited from the race.
He must not have taken a save. That is very, very unfortunate.
Stray has officially forfeited. I can see in the SRL chat.
So it's a low chance that this happens, but this does happen, which is why it's generally recommended for racers to take a save on this floor so that they can get around this.
Yeah. That is a shame.
Which means if Soma is able to complete his run successfully, then looks like Stray is your next opponent, Star.
Yeah, looks like.
That's really unfortunate for Stray, because Stray's been having some pretty good runs in this tournament, and that's just it's kind of a learning experience, I think, especially for newer runners such as Stray. Some of them have more inexperienced runners. I mean, a lot of the runners in this tournament this year are less experienced runners who have not run this for as long as others have. And this is the kind of thing that can happen to racers, but it's something that you learn from and you just take into account the next time you do a race. So yeah, there's not much Stray can do here. If Stray wanted to, he could basically continue on, but he would have to start over and lose 25 minutes of progress. And if Selma basically takes safety saves anywhere, there's nothing that Stray can really realistically do to catch up. Yeah. Birds are jerks. That is confirmed.
Yes, they are. Absolutely.
So Soma will still have to complete this run to get credit for a victory here, and hopefully does not make a similar mistake. But in the meantime, we're going to keep an eye on Kib and Cleric up top, who are actually doing pretty close together. Kib looks like she's holding a small lead again. So they're working their way over here to this Sage's Cave to pick up the Earth Rod. And Kib's on her way back through the Giant's Cave, where we fed the Giant the Star Ruby earlier. Cleric's picking up the Earth route here. That'll clear us the path at the back of the third basement floor, back in Earth Cave, so that we can continue on. And then at the very, very bottom of the Cavern of Earth is going to be Lich, the first of the 4 elemental fiends we have to take down in order to restore the crystals to grace. Kib's getting some tires. Kib's about to re-enter the Earth Cave here.
Mm-hmm.
So she has to basically just repeat the first 3 floors she did earlier, and then make it down to the 4th and 5th floors. Once she gets to the 3rd floor, the dangerous encounters start again. So hopefully for her sake she considers saving, just in case of something like what happened to Stray happening to her.
Yeah, I think Kib will save.
We'll see. She could be a bit risky at times, but she's no slouch, and she's a veteran in last year's tournament, so... Greencleric, I believe, also participated in last year's tournament. I believe both Soma and Stray are brand new to the tournament this year.
I believe so. I was also a part of the tournament last year, but I went out in the group stages, so I didn't get through to the tournament stage. Or the bracket stage, to say.
So we see Kib and Cleric. Cleric is on the 2nd floor, looks like, right now, making his way down to the 3rd. Kib is now on the 3rd floor. So this is where the bad encounters start, and here we have a 9 enemy undead ambush here, which could be problematic.
Fortunately, only the warrior is paralyzed so far, but this can often be a very tough thing to happen.
So we may not have mentioned it.
Yeah,
so we probably didn't mention it earlier, but if you get ambushed in this one, each one of the enemies basically gets 1 free attack on your characters before you are able to issue any commands or otherwise try to flee from the encounter. And the opposite of that would be a preemptive, where your characters basically get a free chance to flee or a free chance to queue up a command for each of them if they want. And here we have another 7 enemy ambush for Kib. So this is mostly just wasting time in this case, because wolves are not particularly dangerous to us, but they may poison our characters, which may necessitate a menu and slow us down. But the enemy ambush, or the undead ambush he ran into earlier, was a little bit more problematic because that could have paralyzed the whole party. Or, as we saw on Stray's side, petrified the party if there happens to be like a cockatrice group here. The runners may take saves at any point in time. It's common to take it at the very beginning of the 3rd floor, because that is where the encounters can actually start, but the runners can honestly save anywhere they want.
I also say to save on at the start of B4, because why not?
Saving only takes a few seconds and can save you several minutes of backtracking if you get really unlucky. So it's up to the runners how often they want to save and where they want to save. But there's very little downside to saving, other than the time it takes to actually save. So Soma looks like he's on the 3rd floor right now. Kib's running into a group of wraiths, which are runnable, but they are notoriously sometimes difficult to run from. So she's opting to use the Mage's Staff as an item which casts Fira and can clear them out. Cleric is actually on the final floor. It looks like Cleric has actually passed Kib and has taken the lead in this race right here. And he's safety saving before Lich, which is a very wise idea, as Lich has a powerful attack he can use in open combat with that can basically wipe our party regardless of the health of our party members. So he can use Blizzara, or he could just attack, or he could possibly paralyze one of our party members if he attacks. There's a Blizzara right there, and that's probably going to be a wipe.
Yeah, that's a wipe.
That's why we take a save there.
Yeah, and that does mean that now Kib is in the lead, but again, the same thing could happen to Kib.
Yeah, we'll see which one is able to squeak by right now, because this is a very common reset point for runners that just get unlucky to have Lich attack them first.
Yeah.
Soma's still working his way. Looks like he's on the 4th floor right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, he's on the 5th floor.
Yeah, and you notice that Soma is opting not to antidote his warrior. That's because at this point there's really no reason to. Having the warrior at low health is perfectly fine. In fact, it's optimal.
If his warrior actually had full health, what he could have done is he could have potioned up his warrior, and he might have been able to tank a blizzard, and then that would still leave him in a position where he can get the warrior's HP back down for the upcoming grind and then the ice cave. But it doesn't look like the warrior had enough HP to survive Blizzara. I don't think so. It probably didn't matter.
Yeah, the warrior has lower health than the thief at this point.
Yeah, which is a little unusual, but it's not much of a concern at this point because the warrior is going to get a bunch more HP over the course of the run. Actually, 160 HP for a thief is pretty good at this point.
Yeah. Meanwhile, both Kib and Soma one-shotted Lich. And Greencleric has beaten him as well.
Yeah, so everybody's all set with Lich here. So that was the first major, probably, reset point for people. And everybody got through it. It's a big reset point for a lot of people, though. There's not many other ones that are quite as painful as that, especially this early in the run.
Yeah.
So the run should be a little bit smoother for most people from this point forward. So Cleric and Kib are returning to their ship. Their next destination is going to be Crescent Lake now. After defeating Lich, one of the members of a Circle of Sages that resides in Crescent Lake will reward us with a canoe, which is a transportation item we need to be able to reach a couple other locations on the world map at this point. It's actually a slower form of movement than the ship, and actually it's the same speed as walking speed, but it allows us to traverse like river tiles and little sections like that. So they're both making their way there. Kib's a little bit behind Cleric. It looks like Cleric had a little bit of a smoother sail, I think. And he landed. And you're gonna, if you actually are paying attention, you'll notice that they have to land at specific points on the world map, these dock tiles. They can only land their boat at the tile or at the mouth of a river that's connected to some shallow water they can canoe over. So they can't walk on this canoe they can't walk on this water that's surrounding Crescent Lake that you see Kib doing here until she gets the canoe. And they have to park their boat at one of these white dock tiles there. They just can't park it anywhere they want to, like later in Final Fantasy games. So in many cases, including like the same thing with the airship, is there's often very limited spots to land or park yourself, and you have to just take a walk to get to the next destination after you land. So it's something they're going to have to deal with, plus the encounters that come along with walking around from the overworld. So Cleric is the first one in to Crescent Lake here, and he's going to set up a very important equipment glitch here. But he's going to stop first in the item shop and purchase some ethers, since he didn't pick them up earlier. He's also selling a couple pieces of equipment to help set up his equipment in a specific manner for glitching. Kib will be doing very much the same thing. And then Cleric goes and picks up a mithril gloves in the armor shop and a mithril axe here in the weapon shop. And we're going to turn them into two key items. The black garb for 3 of our characters, everybody but the warrior, which increases agility even more than the thief's armlets do. And additionally, they're going to put a lust dagger, which increases agility on their weapon slot for the 2 mages. So that's going to give them, each of the mages is basically going to have an additional 50 points of agility, 10 from each of the black garbs that's equipped, and 20 points from the dagger. So they will have a very high chance to go really early in combat, and a great chance to run away from many enemy encounters from this point forward. And additionally, they may glitch 1 piece of armor, 1 black robe in the middle of this menu, and then replace it with the black garbs that they're glitching. This will put a black robe in their inventory, which will allow them to use it as an item to cast Blizzara later on in the run for enemies that are weak to ice. This gives us additional options for dealing with larger unrunnable groups of enemies, because the Judgment Staff has like an 8-second animation, but you can use a number of things like the gauntlets, the black robe, or the mages to have to cast like Fira, Blizzara, Thundara, which have shorter animations and do enough damage to clear certain enemy formations. So it can save some time versus using the Judgment Staff, which was a common thing we did in an older route.
Yeah. And while Soma will be using the Black Mage to cast magic spells instead of using items.
So he won't be using the items. He won't be glitching those items, and he won't be otherwise using them unless there's some sort of emergency. But I don't think he's going to have many of the items. He's just going to use spells on his Black Mage instead. That's only a problem if his Black Mage gets incapacitated in some form, though. The advantage of items is anyone can use items, although the power of the items is based on the character's intelligence. So the only characters that are really going to be effective with them, especially later on, is going to be the mages, particularly the White and Black Mage. The White Mage will be better suited to it because of the equipment we're going to be getting for her. So everybody's making their way over now to Ice Cave. It actually looks like Soma has now leapfrogged both Kib and Greencleric, who are almost synced up. So they're screen for screen over here, but Kib gets an ambush, which is going to slow her down a few seconds.
Yeah. And Soma immediately is safety saving, and the first encounter he gets is an ambush.
So yeah, there's going to be... Everybody should be safety saving here at the start of Ice Cave, because this is probably the most dangerous dungeon in the entire game in terms of the encounters and the enemies you can run into. So they can run into these undead packs like these mummies and cockatrices, which can sleep their characters or petrify their characters. These specters can paralyze them. There's white dragons that can use AoE spells. There's other enemies that you can't run from. There's Pisco demons, which just waste time. So there's a whole host of enemies. There's dark wizards, which can ambush you and kill you. So there's a lot of ways that the game can give you really poor encounters here that can screw you over. And your best way to fight against that is just to take some safety saves every so often.
Yeah, I safety save about 3 times during Ice Cavern.
So
once at the start, and then twice. Once before Evil Eye, and then once after.
Cleric overhealed a little bit earlier, so he can actually walk on these spiky little ice tiles over here, which won't force encounters, but his characters will take some damage each time he walks on a tile to reduce his character's health. And here's some white dragons on Cleric's side.
Ooh.
It's probably ideal for him to actually attack them or use the staff to kill them, as running away from them is often very problematic, and it's really, really dangerous if you don't run away. Yeah, Soma got a preemptive against Dark Wizards. This is very good, because that gives him a free chance to get away. Now, Cleric has to use the staff twice to kill these white dragons. He probably would have been better off just attacking with his characters. But so long as his characters don't die, it's not a huge mistake. It's just a little bit of a time loss. But Kib's getting some really, really annoying encounters.
Yeah.
Same on Soma's side here. These large undead ambushes. Oh, Cleric gets another white dragon, but is able to actually run from this one. And a Dark Wizard preemptive, luckily for him. Because an ambush would be very, very deadly and probably a wipe. Kib makes it over here to the Evil Eye here after working our way through the Ice Cave. Now we've specifically set up our party so that this fight, we try to get ourselves to kill off the warrior and the thief here so that the mages can grind experience, because if your mages are the only ones standing, they basically get the share of experience that the warrior and thief would have gotten if they get double the experience for each time they fight. And we specifically grind here because the Evil Eye is worth a lot of XP and a lot of money, and and he has a very powerful attack that helps us set up the grind in the first place.
Yeah. There is another enemy later on in the game that we could use to grind as well, but this one is far quicker.
Oh, Selma's in trouble here.
Ooh.
Now he's got a Mind Flayer. Oh, that's a wipe on Selma's side. So he's going to be forced to restart from his last save, which was at the start of the Ice Cave, so that's going to lose him a couple minutes. So this is not very fun here. So meanwhile, Kib and Cleric are both here at the grind. So the goal of this grinding section here is we kill off the warrior and thief so that the mages get double experience, and then we fight the Evil Eye over and over again until our characters get to level 17 or level 18. You can basically get away with either one of those. But the ultimate goal is to basically get your mages to level 19 by a certain point of the run so that they can purchase and use specific spells. We want the 19 for Healara for the White Mage and Teleport for the Black Mage. So this usually takes 1 or 2 Evil Eye fights for every level of the character. So you're probably going to see something like 7 to 10 grind fights, depending on how many fights they've already fought up to this point. Because if the melee characters are not dead, it basically takes twice as many fights for them to reach level 17 or 18 on their mages.
Yep. Because we need our mages to get to a specific level so that they can get the spells that we require for the rest of the run.
And every one of these fights that they run into is basically going to cost them 10 to 12 seconds if they act immediately. So twice as many fights when they have to. If they kill off the warrior and thief, it takes maybe 7 to 9 fights. If they didn't kill off the warrior and thief, it would take about twice as many fights, which would take another minute and a half off their time. And the advantage of doing that is that we can res them later in the fight, and they can still gain enough experience. They can still gain enough experience over the course of the run, and in the warrior's case, they often get enough HP level ups from those additional levels that they can still meet a certain minimum amount that we want for the final fight.
And you'll also notice that these runners will keep their warrior dead because they get more experience for the thief and the mages for the next one.
For Kib and for Greencleric here especially, they're going to be trying to res the thief here, try to get him some experience over the next dungeon and a half or so, and perhaps he might gain enough experience to be able to learn haste when we pick up the spell. If we don't, it's not a huge loss. It just is an extra. It's something that can speed the final fight. But haste will be picked up by the black mage either way. So Kib's opened a pretty good lead here now. She got out of the ice cave in a much cleaner manner than Greencleric, and went and picked up the airship with a levistone we picked up in the ice cave. So now she's got the fastest form of travel for the overworld, which is 4 times faster than walking around, and you're not subject to random encounters while you're flying around. But the only downside to that is that to reach many locations, you have to find a landing spot and then walk to your destination. So Kib is here parking her ship. She wants to go to the Citadel Trials, and that's the nearest landing spot for the airship here. So she's crossing this little desert. This little desert can be a little dangerous if you get ambushed by sandworms. There's a small chance of that happening. If they ambush you, he can cast Earthquake and wipe your party. It's a very low occurrence, but it is something that can happen in races. And low percentage things are things that are something that are bound to happen over the course of so many runs, as we see on Stray's screen.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Soma is currently doing the Evil Eye fight. And remember, while it does look like Soma is very much behind Kibetha and Greencleric, he's not actually technically racing them. He's racing Straevaras, who unfortunately did have to forfeit. So as long as Soma does finish the run, it doesn't matter what his final time is, he's still won the race.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. So Kib has made her way here to the Citadel Trials, and it's a little bit of a maze on this second floor here. Our ultimate goal is to pick up the Rat's Tail at the end of the Citadel Trials so that we can class change. Once we've class changed, our characters will be able to pick up the spells we want to pick up later on. But the Rat's Tail's in a chest on the 3rd floor, and the only way to get there is to go through this little teleporter maze here. If she picks the wrong teleporter in some of these rooms that have an option, she'll be teleported back to the start of the floor. Most of the runners should know which one they're going for at this point. And it's only really a time loss if you pick the wrong one, because you just have to repeat the floor again. But now Kib's made it to the 3rd floor, and she's actually going to fight this Nightmare encounter, which is a forced encounter when you step onto this tile. One or two of them can spawn every time you step on this tile, and she's going to opt to fight them, as it could be somewhat problematic to run from them based on our equipment setup. But they are runnable. It is a runnable encounter if you were able to get a preemptive, or if you just don't need the experience. So they can save a little time trying to run away. But if they don't run away, then it wastes more time than if you had just attacked. Looks like Soma's all set with the grind now and is picking up the Levistone. Kib had a really quick trip through Citadel, it looks like, and has picked up the Rat's Tail. And then as she steps right before this throne, she's going to get into an encounter with dragon zombies, which is forced and unrunnable, and then she's going to take these down. If she did her experience grinding correctly, then her mages should reach level 19 right now. If not, she can actually just step off this tile and repeat the fight. Soma's getting an unrunnable Ice Gigas Winter Wolf here in the Ice Cave, so he's going to have to take care of that before he can move on. Cleric's working his way through the teleporter maze right now, so Kibetha in the lead here, and Soma is leading this race down here. Soma will basically win this race so long as he completes the run, since Starcrawl had an unfortunate wipe to a cockatrice ambush earlier, and they did not have a safety save at the right time, so there was nothing he could do to recover from that.
Yeah. You mean Stry, not me.
Did I say Star? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did. I am not running.
I'm just predicting the future, I guess. Or,
hey!
Yeah,
that's not very nice.
No. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I mean, I've lost a tournament race on a cockatrice ambush like that. It's not fun.
Yeah.
So, but it's a learning experience, and hopefully Stray learns from that and takes that into account on his next run.
Yeah, you should do.
It's a hard lesson to learn, but...
Yeah, agreed.
So Kib has picked up the rat's tail, and she's going to go visit the Dragon King Bahamut over here. So she flies over to this little Dragon Cave's hole over here and goes into this specific one. A lot of the other ones just have treasure in them, and some of them have NPCs you can talk to. We don't need to talk to anyone. They don't have any information for us, and nothing triggers from that. So we don't really care what the dragons have to say here. Cleric looks like he's almost done. Yeah, he's done here, and is getting out of Citadel. So he's just going to have to make a way back to his ship, fly over to the cave, and then see if he can't catch up to Kib, who's making pretty good pace so far. Kib is one of the stronger runners in the tournament this year, and is not an easy person to beat in this tournament.
No. But again, there's everything to play for. It can all change. It's not over until Chaos dies.
Yeah. I mean, in spite of the fact that it looks like Cleric is kind of significantly behind her, this can still easily flip within 1 or 2 dungeons. There's no way to recover. If your entire party is petrified, then your only recourse is basically loading a save. In Stray's case, he didn't take a save, so there's nothing he can do here. But if only a handful of your party members get petrified instead of the entire party, we have gold needles that can recover from that. But it's a little dangerous. I mean, you tend to want to do that after combat rather than in combat, as it skips an animation. And in general, you just don't want to be in combat with them, and you just don't want to get petrified by them in the first place. So it's really unfortunate that Stray's entire party got petrified before he was able to either kill or run away from that group. And since he didn't take a safety save, there's honestly nothing he could do.
Yeah.
So here we see on Soma's side a sandworm. If the sandworm happened to use Earthquake, that could wipe his party. That could be very dangerous. But once you get past that little desert area, you're basically fine from that. So Cleric is now class changing over here. Kib, meanwhile, has gone for a little bit of some errands here after class changing. She stopped over to the Desert Caravan and purchased a bottled fairy. She then took to Gaia, which is where she is right now. As soon as you step in Gaia, the fairy is released and flies to that little spring at the back of the town, and you have to go chase it down, and it rewards you with Oxyale, which is a key item you need to be able to access the Sunken Shrine, one of the 4 dungeons we have to complete before we can go to the final dungeon. And then Kib also probably purchased some Giant's Tonics, which is a separate menu that opens up after you purchase the Bottled Fairy from the Desert Caravan here. So she purchased those, took that over to Gaia, and now she's just going to actually head to Mount Gull because it's a little bit closer than going for some other stuff. So here in Mount Gull is a lot of lava and also some stone tiles you can step on here. And we prefer to step on the lava tiles because you can't get encounters on the lava tiles. But as a consequence, every tile you step on, your party takes 1 point of damage. So our party's going to slowly lose a bunch of health trying to walk over this, but we're going to reduce our risk of encounters by stepping on as much lava as possible. And then Kib actually opted to heal up her white mage so that she doesn't fall too low on with HP. I mean, some runners such as myself like to charge through this whole dungeon without healing, just because I'm used to it, and it is possible to get away with it more times than not.
Although you can easily die to a unfortunate ambush.
If you play risky, yeah, you could run into an enemy ambush if you get really unlucky, and if they happen to be like hellhounds or a fire hydra, they could wipe your party.
And most people don't safety save in this dungeon, so it can be very, very risky.
Yeah, your other option, I mean, in a lot of cases, your options are basically heal or save, and one or the other is usually sufficient to help get you through what you need to do.
Yeah.
Soma's getting an unlucky Horned Devil ambush over here, which is not particularly dangerous unless a lot of them like to use their fire attack, because that can do a lot of damage and waste a lot of time. Cleric is starting Mount Gulg here. I don't think either runner took a safety save here. It's not very common to take one here, but you can if you want. Kib opted to just to heal instead.
And Kib has killed Merilith.
Yeah. Merilith is kind of a pushover in this version, thanks to the overpowered equipment we get from the equipment glitch here. It should take only 2 hits from our barbarian swords to take her down. It might additionally take some extra hits if we're unlucky. Soma's in trouble again over here because he's got a paralyzed black mage and a white mage that could be very, very vulnerable if enough of these guys use fire. So Soma's going to use a judgment save to get rid of that group.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Definitely. He did have a bit of trouble from running from the Horned Devil as well. Opting to keep the, oh, no, I was just about to say he's opted to keep the Thief dead, but now gone ahead and revived him.
Yeah, at this point you might see the runners revive their warrior before Merilith at this point, because they no longer need experience for their characters, or at least they no longer need to specifically set it up so that they were getting additional experience for certain characters. So they raise everyone up, and then just get everyone back to fighting shape. And that gives them 2 melee characters that can attack and kill Merilith rather than just one. So Soma's here, it looks like on the final tile at the end of the Citadel, and has to fight these dragon zombies, opting to attack with Lust Daggers, which is better because they have a lot of HP and probably might not die to Judgment Staff or Fyra at this point, based on the equipment we have.
And Kibetha, meanwhile, is heading to various places and getting some spells on her mages. Getting Healer on the white mage and Teleport on the black mage.
And additionally, Haste on the black mage.
Haste on the black mage as well, yep.
And if she had the right levels, she also probably could have picked up Haste for her thief. But we'll have to see that.
Not sure.
Yeah,
I didn't catch.
Yeah, there's a lot going on between 4 screens, so it can be a little tough to track sometimes. Especially in a run like this. So Kib, now that she completed all of her errands, has the Oxy Ale from earlier and can head to the Sunken Shrine. I mean, any route divergences largely converge here at Sunken Shrine. There's another sandworm for Soma here.
Yeah. Well, there is another slight divergence in Sunken Shrine because there is 2 ways you can get a certain item that is required for an equipment glitch. You can get it on the 4th floor or the 2nd floor. Some runners opt to get it on the 4th, and some on the 2nd.
So let's see what's going on here. So Cleric is making his way over for some spell shopping. Kib, meanwhile, is now on the 4th floor. You actually start on the 3rd floor of the Sunken Shrine, not like the 1st floor or something like that. Kib running into ghosts here, which is a little unlucky. It's one of the unrunnable formations that you can run into here, and is utilizing the mage's staff to take them out. So this particular 4th floor has a lot of different unrunnable formations we can run into. Just has to work her way through it. These sharks are thankfully runnable. Yeah, no problems here with White Shark and Deep Eyes. Most of these enemies are pretty easy to run from if they're not unrunnable. So they're not a big threat to us. And then Kib makes it to this 5th floor, which has no encounters. Just has to walk around to a chest and pick up the Rosetta Stone here. We don't need it for this particular dungeon, but it's needed to be able to access the next dungeon after this. So it's a little out of the way compared to just going straight to Kraken. So she's going to teleport back now that we have the ability to teleport. It's much faster than walking back out of these dungeons, as you have probably seen us go. So she's going to teleport back 2 floors, as each time you cast it, it puts you at the end of the previous floor that you were on.
Yep.
That puts her back to the starting floor that she was on, and then she starts heading in the other direction to head back towards the 1st floor instead.
Yeah. So Kib opting to get the light axe on the 2nd floor instead of the 4th floor.
Yeah, each of the paths you can take has a light axe and a treasure chest, and we need that for an equipment glitch to be able to turn it into a piece of armor known as a survival vest. Since you can pick it up in 2 locations, you can choose which one you want to pick. And honestly, they're almost equidistant. It's a bit of recent discovery that the one on the 4th floor is actually almost as close as the one on the 2nd floor. So some runners are experimenting with that. But the original route had most of the runners picking it up on the 2nd floor like Kib is going to be doing.
Yeah.
So Soma is now grabbing the Oxyale in the back of Gaia. Cleric is entering Sunken Shrine right here. And Kib is on the 2nd half of the Sunken Shrine as she makes her way down to Kraken. So she's actually entered the light axe room here on the 2nd floor. And she specifically approached it from the right side of the chest rather than the left or the bottom side, as the other 2 sides have forced encounters when you step on them. And she's turning this into survival vests for each of her characters. So she's going to set it up to put 4 survival vests on the Black Mage, 3 each on the Warrior and the Thief, and then 2 survival vests and 2 Lordly Robes. The Lordly Robe is going to be created from the healing staff we picked up in the Citadel of Trials. So this is basically setting it up so that the Black Mage is the most likely to act in the turn order. Everybody's well guarded from damage from enemy attacks, and then this also gives enough agility and intelligence to the White Mage so that any unrunnable group she comes into contact with she can take care of using the various items we've picked up throughout this run. So Kib's working her way through Kraken's floor, and it's actually making pretty good time, it looks like. Cleric looks to be all set with the Rosetta path. And someone's working...
making Drew Gog.
So I didn't explain, but the survival vest actually adds even more agility and defense than the black garbs we've been wearing on all of our characters. And additionally, we only put the black garbs on 3 of our characters. We didn't put it on the warrior because due to the properties of the equipment glitch, it would take an inordinate amount of menuing to put it on that. But it's easier, but the survival vest is actually equipable by more characters, which makes it easier for us to put it on more characters, and we also put it on the warrior here. So the warrior gets a huge agility gain from transitioning from Thief's Armlets up to survival vest, because each one adds 15 points of agility and 15 points of stamina to our characters. But there's actually one other piece of gear in the game that gives more agility than the survival vest, but it's only accessible through the bonus dungeons. So we don't actually detour to go get that because we don't have a quick way to get in and out of the bonus dungeons without wasting a lot of time. And unfortunately, there's not really any reason for us to visit the bonus dungeons in an any % run. In a category such as all bosses, you may see the runners go into each of the bonus dungeons to take on all the bonus content. But nothing pans out here. We just take advantage of the equipment that was actually added to this version, since we can glitch it from other similar items without actually having to visit the dungeons themselves. So Cleric here is setting up his survival vest menu. So yeah, looks like he's doing pretty good so far.
Yep.
He's going a little bit slower in the menus than Kib, it looks like, but I mean, he's not having any problems or making any errors, it doesn't look like. And honestly, accuracy is a little bit more important than speed when you're trying to set up these menus. I mean, speed does matter to some degree, but you have to go at a rate that you're comfortable with, which might be slower for some runners than others. So on this specific one, we're putting 2 survivals and 2 lordlies on the white mage, again, so that she gets an intelligence and agility bonus, so that she can handle groups such as this ghost here with the mage's staff. It gives her enough agility so she can act early in the order, and then enough intelligence so that it can kill those groups of enemies. And we specifically align it so that we don't put a lordly robe on the armor slot. If you put the lordly robes on an armor slot, it triggers a regen animation at the end of a combat round, and we don't want to do that because that basically just wastes time. So what causes the glitch? Basically, each piece of equipment in the game is assigned an item ID, and that ID is associated with one of 2 tables, either the armor table or the equipment table, or the weapon table. If they pick up an item, that has an ID as another item they want, they use the memory cursor to line up 2 characters that are adjacent to each other in the formation. So in this case, you can see the warrior is next to the thief, and additionally, he's also next to the the black mage on, let's say, Greencleric side, for example. So the warrior is considered to be adjacent to the thief and the black mage characters. So if he wants to glitch from one character to another, they have to be adjacent to themselves in the formation order, and then he would basically press X to load the list of IDs on an equipment slot, and then line it up with an adjacent character and scroll over to that character at the same time they press X, and it confuses the game into loading the wrong set of IDs on the target character's equipment slot. So basically, it's looking, if he was to press X on the weapon slot for the warrior, and then let's say press scroll right to the thief character, and the slot is lined up such that it's on the helmet slot for the thief, then basically it will load the list of IDs for the equipment you have in your inventory, but it will load it for the armor table, and it'll basically allow us to pull that out of nowhere and put it onto the thief's equipment slot at that point, regardless of whether or not it belongs there or the character can actually equip that. But the only caveat is the items that you're trying to equip in the first place have to be equipable by the character that you're trying to glitch from. So, which is why we use the warrior in this case, because the warrior has the widest range of equipment he can equip compared to the other characters. So we often start glitches on the warrior and end them on other characters, because the item has to be naturally equipable by the warrior or the knight in order for us to be able to glitch it onto other characters. So it's kind of a roundabout explanation, and it's not very easy to explain. There's a couple tutorial videos perhaps available on speedrun.com that might explain it better than that. But meanwhile, where are we? Cleric is working his way through the waterfall cavern.
Yeah, Kiba's making her way to Lufinia, facing some monitor zombies along the way, which are unrunnable.
So yeah, Kib ran into Melman to translate the Rosetta Stone so she could head down here to Lufenia. Soma's actually picking up a Rosetta Stone here in Sunken. And Cleric's almost all the way through Waterfall here. And then as soon as you enter this room, there's a forced encounter tile, that first step in the room here. But Cleric picks up the Warp Cube. In order to be able to go through the Mirage Tower and the Flying Fortress, we need 2 key items. We need the Warp Cube to get from the Mirage Tower to the Flying Fortress. We also need the Chime to be able to enter the Mirage Tower. So this is Greencleric picking up the first of the 2 key items. And Kib actually just went into Lufenia now that we translated the Rosetta Stone so we understand the Lufenian language, so she could converse with the NPCs there, specifically one NPC that would give us the Chime, which is the other key item she needs to go through the entire dungeon in one go.
Mm-hmm. And on Greencleric's screen, we're seeing a menu that we didn't touch on earlier, that Kid did earlier, that we didn't mention, which is getting ribbon on the Thief, Warrior, and White Mage, and I think Black Mage as well for the White Mage route. And a black mage doesn't get it ribbon until later, so I'm not sure about the white mage route.
The white mage route only gets it on the warrior and the thief.
Right, cool.
I tend to run the white mage route because I'm more used to running it at this point, and I think switching routes would only confuse me.
Yeah.
Until I have a chance to practice it.
Yeah, I use the black mage route. I'm not too familiar on the white mage one.
So Kib should have ribbons on her warrior and thief at this point, and she has additional pieces of equipment on the slot here. One other property we didn't really mention is that, you can see that for most of our characters, they have 3 or 4 pieces of equipment on their character, but there are actually 4 armor slots that you can use here. But a lot of our characters, or a lot of our runners, are aware of the fact that there's another glitch with the shield slot in this game. If you happen to glitch a piece of equipment that doesn't have a blocking animation, and then a character blocks in combat with a piece of equipment, it basically hard locks the game right off the bat. So they specifically won't equip things on the shield slot unless they happen to know an item is safe to equip there. So survival vests, ribbons, lordly robes are actually safe to equip on there, but some of the items we picked up earlier, such as thieves' armlets and black garbs, are not safe to equip on there. If a character tries to block with one of those equipped, it's going to cause a hard lock of the game.
And there's enough RNG in already, we don't even add more RNG on top.
Yeah, Kib getting a 9 enemy ambush here. Soma was getting unrunnable ghosts here in Sunken.
And Greencleric getting unrunnable Manator zombies on the mighty Lithuania.
So Kib has opened a pretty good lead at this point, and as she gets closer to the end of this run, it's going to start to squeeze on Cleric and make it tougher for him to try to catch up. But it's still not impossible for him to catch up at this point, particularly if Kib happens to unfortunately wipe somewhere, which is still possible. Our characters are pretty well equipped, given what we've gone through here, but they're still vulnerable to certain things.
Yeah, so Chaos Shrine is very much the great decider. It can change everything. Oof, Greencleric getting slightly blocked by NPCs.
So Kib made her way through Mirage Tower. Now she's on to the Flying Fortress. She's running into Evil Eyes here, which are still unrunnable. So that slows her down a little bit. But otherwise, nothing else is particularly unrunnable here. So she's just got to make her way through the 5 floors here. And with any luck, we might see a War Mech today on the 5th floor.
Hopefully. Get some War Mech hype in the chat.
Yes, please. Cleric getting another group of Minotaur zombies, which are unrunnable. Kib getting some Manticores, which are just a little annoying, not particularly dangerous. Yeah, someone took the high path. There's actually 2 paths you can take on this floor with Kraken. There's a higher floor and a lower path. The lower path is a little bit quicker, but it doesn't really matter that much. But every additional step you have to take risks getting into an encounter. So in general, if there's a choice of a shorter path, it's generally better to take that one. But some runners may not be aware of everything. It just depends on their familiarity with the route.
Now, will Kib get War Mech?
Let's see.
Nope, doesn't look like it.
No,
but there's still a possibility after killing Tiamat.
Yeah, calm down, everyone. There's still a chance to get one after him.
And you can still see one on Greencleric's or Soma's side. So
yeah, Cleric and Soma still both have a chance also to get War Mech here. It only appears on this floor that Kib is on right now. She tried to set this up for a 1-round combat. It doesn't look like the Black Mage went off in time, and now the Black Mage is down.
Ooh.
But she should still be okay as long as, Tiamat doesn't act first. Are the runners allowed to watch the stream? Yes, they are allowed to watch the stream. It's up to them if they want to, but there's nothing preventing it. It's not like this is a randomizer where you're not supposed to be getting outside information. You could use that information if you want.
Yeah, I would tend to.
I tend to keep it up in the background for me, and then I just have an eye on where my opponent is, so I can perhaps alter my strategy if I need to.
Yeah.
But I mean, in general, there's not much you need to do to alter your strategy. If you're ahead, you may want to take safety saves just to make sure you stay ahead. If you're behind, you may want to start playing riskier just to try to save a little time. But that's about the extent of what you can do there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what encounters you get and when you get them are not up to you. Because there's no encounter manipulation in this one. Kib's running a little dangerous and she opted not to heal after her Tiamat. But no Warmech for her. So we're down to Greencleric or Soma for getting a Warmech today. We'll have to see what happens.
Kibetha opted not to revive a Black Mage yet. She'll probably do that in Chaos Shrine when she saves. Most runners do a safety save right at the beginning of Chaos Shrine, so it makes sense to just revive the Black Mage there, cut down the menu.
Yeah, just consolidating a menu. There's a little cutscene here in the PSP version showing us the opening of the bonus dungeon at the back of the Chaos Shrine here.
Right.
That's the entrance for the Labyrinth of Time. This little mysterious figure is showing us where the entrance is. Unfortunately, it has no relevance to the any % run, and we just ignore what that NPC is doing.
Now, Greencleric is now on the Warmech floor. Let's see if he gets it. And nope.
Not yet. Let's see.
Not yet.
Nice. Another one here. Let's see. Nope. It's just a black flat ambush here.
Black ambush. Yep.
Soma, meanwhile, is doing his survival vest lordly robes menuing over here.
Ribbon.
I'm sorry, ribbon menu.
Yeah.
Another ambush for Kib over here. So Kib begins the final dungeon here. She took a quick safety save and healed up at the start of this one, as there's a lot of different unrunnables and a number of enemy encounters which can still do a lot of damage to us if we make mistakes or just get really unlucky. Such as these white dragons here.
Greencleric getting a Thunderbolt, which killed both of his mages.
Well, that's
they are looking very low on HP. The white mage and black mage are very, very low. In fact, all of his party members are quite low on HP, which could be a bit of an issue for Chaos later.
I'm going to start paying attention to Kib's HP totals on her Thief and her Black Mage. We're hoping to hit certain thresholds before we get to the final fight. It looks like she's a little low on the Thief right now, but actually the Black Mage Banzai looks pretty healthy, as is tradition for Banzai.
Yeah, meanwhile, like I said, Greencleric's Black Mage is quite low on HP, only having 155, which is very, very low.
Yeah, that's unusually low and a little dangerous for the final fight, but he's probably gonna get some experience from the forced encounters that he's almost certain to run into in the Chaos Shrine to get that up a little bit. Ideally, we probably want a minimum of 300 on the Thief and probably closer to like 200 on the Black Mage minimum, although the higher it goes, the easier it is. The goal being that the Giant's Tonics we picked up at the Desert Caravan, we don't need to use them. We can use them if our characters end up a little bit low, though, as they raise the max HP of a character by 200 for the duration of a combat round. So it's a safety strategy that we pick up on them, just in case we happen to low roll on HP level ups for our characters. So Cleric is healing up, post Tiamat, and just ethering up on the Mage, because the Mage will be the primary source of healing now that we have heal arm.
Opting to do that menu before entering instead of during the save menu, which I suppose you can do, just means you have to do a small extra menu.
Here we go with Kib. Kib has made her way up through Death Eye, and now she's on her way down to Lich 2, so she's got to get through this dangerous floor here, which has white dragons and purple worms. And chimeras can be really a pain too if they happen to show up and they ambush. So she's got Earth Elementals here. On the White Mage route, you don't have enough intelligence to be able to... It's a kind of a damage roll to use the Mage's Staff here, so it's much safer to use the Judgment Staff to guarantee that this is going to kill in one go. But a Mage's Staff may or may not kill them in one go, and if it doesn't, then she's basically got to spend another round killing them. Here we got Purple Worms on Greencleric's side. This is unrunnable. And even Soma's getting Minotaur zombies over here. Someone's just getting slammed with RNG.
Yeah.
And a really unfortunate ice cave wipe.
Yeah, but as a reminder for those who may have just joined us or joined us recently, Soma, as long as he finishes, has technically still won his race, as Stray unfortunately had to forfeit due to, as you can see on the screen, a unfortunate cockatrice encounter.
It's a painful reminder.
Yes.
So, Gib again getting more unrunnable Earth Elementals here, and just using the Judgment Staff to clear them out. Greencleric has made his way to Death Eye, so he's probably a minute or two behind, because he's got to go through, I think, 3 floors to get over to where Kib is right now. He's about 3 floors back. Kib's setting up so she can confront the first of the 4 Elemental Fiend refights here, Lich. But Kib is actually pretty low on her warrior here. This is going to be dangerous if Lich gets a chance to Blizzara, or I'm sorry, Flare here. And that's a Flare. That's made very...
Flare.
Let's see what happens here. Well,
oh, the Blaze did survive though.
Oh wow, how did the Black Mage survive that one? That's impressive.
Yeah, but unfortunately they don't do very much damage.
Oh my god.
Wow. That was...
That is one clutch.
Impressive.
That is one clutch White Mage. That could have been very, very dangerous if that had not finished off Lich. That is the most dangerous. If Lich opens with Flare, that's the most problematic part of that fight, pretty much. And Kib's Warrior and Thief were unusually low on max HP. So Cleric's getting some White Dragons over here, trying to run from them. White Dragons are really only a problem here if you fail to run from them or they ambush you. Now, Kib makes her way to Marilith, a refight, which is not nearly as dangerous as Lich. But again, still using Faraga on her, which is going to waste some time for her. Because now she's got a menu to heal up. But otherwise, she's fine.
On the HP update, Kib's Banzai is looking very, very nice, whereas Green's Black Mage isn't doing so good. Only 161 HP, which is very low. Ideally, like also I said earlier, we want over 200.
We want over 200 to be able to survive in case Chaos opens with Blaze on the first round.
Yeah.
And the more he gets, the easier it will be for the Black Mage to survive subsequent attacks, if they happen to be problematic attacks. Greencleric got through Lich with no problems, it looks like.
And no Warmech on Soma. Oh, Soma is,
So looks to be forcing a Warmech, or perhaps trying to see if he can get one.
I mean, why not Showboat a little bit? I mean, he's won the race as long as he finishes. So...
That's a treat for us in the chat, but then he went straight into Tiamat, so we'll see if he continues to try after Tiamat or not. So Kib is now on Kraken's floor. She's just got to work her way through a pretty long floor, and she was trying to avoid getting water elementals, which are unrunnable. Everything else is pretty much runnable on that floor. But now she's into Kraken's fight, and should be able to 2-round this depending on the rolls of her. She also did not heal before that, which could be dangerous if Kraken uses Thundara or Thunderbolt.
Yeah, Kib's playing it a little bit risky.
Yeah, that was a little dangerous there. But so long as she heals before Tiamat, she's probably fine.
Yeah. But Greencleric is catching up, so...
He's only 1 floor back right now.
Yeah. So Kib's likely playing it a little bit risky to try and save time.
I mean, both of these players are at an excellent pace. This looks like PB pace for Greencleric right now. This is like gonna probably crush his prior PB right now, as long as he stays on track.
Yep.
Even Kib's in pretty good shape to be close to her PB.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at Greencleric's stream, and he is about almost 4 minutes behind his PB at the moment. So he is definitely on PB pace.
Yeah, this could be this is looking like a sub 130 for him, which I think would break into that for him. Kib down with, I don't know, this is going to be another excellent time for Kib right now if she gets no particular problems with Chaos. As the only thing left is this little narrow passageway to the staircase, and then she's onto Chaos. Claire getting a really unfortunate 4-enemy purple worm ambush. Because that's doesn't give her a lot of options in terms of how to handle it. The easiest way is just going to be the Judgment Staff. And this air elemental group is proving very trolly for her. So Kib's PB is actually a 126. I don't think she's going to be able to beat that, but she's still going to be in excellent time. So she's all set for Chaos. She's just going to set up here, specifically going to set up her party so that she loads up on Intelligence gear on the White Mage and takes the Agility gear off so that we can guarantee that the White Mage will act towards the end of the combat round in each round. Additionally, they're going to put ribbons on to be able to help survive. And we're going to change the Black Mage's equipment to give him a ribbon and then a Barbarian sword, so he can basically do a lot more damage, physical damage.
And Greencleric is on the Chaos Sword as well, so it'll all come down to Chaos. If Kib wipes on Chaos and Greencleric doesn't, then...
I don't know if Kib took a save or not.
She did, yeah.
If she did, then she may have an opportunity if something goes really, really wrong. I'll have to see what happens here. Cleric's going to be doing the same setup here, and then just making sure he ethers and heals up before starting the fight. And may or may not take a save, depending on how aggressive he wants to try this, because he's actually very, very close to Kib right here. And Chaos RNG could make up the difference here.
Yeah, very much so.
But Chaos opens with a physical on Kib's side, which is what she wants to see. It's a very quick attack, which doesn't waste a lot of time. Yeah. And she didn't tonic. She just tonicked the Thief, which was a smart move, given the HP totals.
Yeah. And on Greencleric's side, keep an eye on that Black Mage, because if his HP is very, very low, so if Chaos does open up with a Blaze, then his Black Mage will likely die.
So Kib is through 2 rounds. This, assuming no particularly dangerous things, this usually takes 6 or 7 rounds of combat. So Kib is now on round 3. But that's the opener of the magic cycle. So that may put it closer to Kiraja for Kib's side. We'll have to see. But she's not particularly... Her party's in pretty good shape right now. So it's just up to what Chaos does at this point.
Yeah. One thing to note is that while we do have very, very overpowered equipment, it's mostly for defense. Our magic defense isn't that high at the moment. So we do take quite a lot of damage from magic.
Let's see what happens here with Greencleric's Black Mage survives. So that's a good sign for Cleric.
Yeah.
Slow roll, a little unfortunate on Kib's side. I don't think either has seen a skill cycle ablaze yet. So this is an excellent pattern on Kib's side. There's a blaze for Cleric. That would have been problematic if it had happened on the round before. Yeah. And now here's the blaze for Kib as well. So these are just longer attacks that do a lot of elemental damage to our characters. Or at least Blaze does. Tsunami and Cyclone just do non-elemental damage. And there it is for Kib.
And yep, Kib has taken down Chaos. Does mean that she has won this race.
This is going to be a bit of a heartbreaker for Cleric, because this is easily going to be a PB for him right now. But it's not going to be enough to advance in this bracket.
Yeah, unfortunately. He has an excellent run.
There's still absolutely, there's absolutely no shame in this run. This is an excellent run.
Yeah.
And this definitely makes Cleric no pushover for any subsequent rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure. I think his heal aura looks to be a little bit low. I usually hit like 250.
A Kiraja on Cleric's side. That's a little unfortunate.
Ooh.
That may push this closer to 130. We'll have to see, because now he's going to have to chew through an extra 10,000 HP on Chaos' side. should take a couple extra rounds.
Yes.
Soma, meanwhile, is now on Lich's floor, working his way through. The advantage of his route with the Black Mage Lust Dagger is he has enough intelligence to be able to guarantee that he can use fire to clear Earth Elementals. Cleric's still working his way through. The only thing he really has to worry about is if his White Mage runs out of MP, but it probably is going to be over very quickly. Yeah, that is an enormous PB for Greencleric right there.
Yeah, that is a huge PB. Congratulations to Greencleric. Unfortunately, it's not quite enough to win the race, but it's still a fantastic run for him. See if we can get them in for an interview. Meanwhile, Soma is making his way through the Chaos Shrine.
Yeah, someone's just got to finish out this run, and then we'll be done here with our four-way race. And it would be Kib and Soma advancing.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd be facing each other in the subsequent round after that. So that will be a very good match.
It looks like Kibetha will be joining us shortly for an interview.
I can't wait to hear from these guys, because this is going to be... Kib has once again had another outstanding run, and Cleric after a PB.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very nice run from both of these runners.
So I'm working his way through Marilith. Again, not a problem. He's got, it looks like 288 on his Thief, and I can't see how much he's got on his Black Mage, but it looks like it's over 200.
Yeah.
It's probably not an issue for Chaos. So just 2 more floors for Soma to get through before he gets to Chaos's floor.
Yeah, I can see on Soma's main stream it's over, definitely over 200. So it's near to 250 at the moment, so he's got plenty of HP.
Yeah, it's a healthy total. And I see a Kibetha in the chat.
Yes, hello Kibetha. Congratulations on your win.
Thank you. I can't believe I just beat Green when he's just got like a 2.5 minute
Yeah,
PB.
his PB was insane.
I am a horrible person.
You are.
You are a very horrible person, Kib.
Just crushing dreams everywhere.
I was chasing or ahead of PB for almost that entire round except for Chaos Shrine.
Yeah, it looks like once again you cracked into 127 territory, which is still exclusive territory right now, it looks like.
Yep. And hello, Greencleric. Congratulations on your PB, dude.
Congratulations, I'm so sorry.
I don't know what's stranger, me putting up the 129 or hey, 129 not good enough.
Yeah.
Try again.
Sorry.
That was a very nice run from both of you.
It was just that FF1 was being really nice to me.
Yeah.
I feel like I should apologize for this.
I mean,
everyone was surprisingly nice to both of you.
Yeah. I mean, I had what felt like a lot of ambushes in my mid-game. I just kind of felt like I turned every corner and got an ambush. But other than that, it was really nice.
And on Cleric's side, that probably could have been a 128 if not for Kiraja.
Oh, you got Kira? Oh, no!
Yeah, when Chaos actually went all spells. First 4 rounds, spell.
Yeah, we was a little bit worried about your Black Mage going into the Chaos fight, because he was looking very low on HP.
What, mine?
No, yours was fine. Greencleric's was like quite, because it was like 150, something like that. 150.
Ouch!
Yes, if we cut Banzai in half, he probably would have had as much as
Yeah.
Greencleric's.
Oh god.
I think he had 290, was it? That lich! Oh, that was amazing. You know how when Lich normally
Oh
casts
yeah,
a
your
flare,
Lich, yeah.
you know, like everyone survives other than the Black Mage.
yeah. We was quite surprised by your Lich. It's like we just saw the flare, like everyone died except the Black Mage and the White Mage.
And then the Black Mage just like stabbed him with a lush dagger. I was laughing my ass off.
and he killed him with the White Mage. That was hilarious.
That was very nearly bad.
Yeah.
And I was trying to go fast because I thought maybe I can get PB. So I didn't save beforehand. But,
Oh yeah. I did notice that you didn't save. That was very risky.
My warrior was so squishy.
I mean, didn't you basically say box Y the other day when that happened?
That was chaos. That's different.
Yeah.
You should have gone for the PB. You should have lived on the edge.
And died.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing there.
Just a suggestion. Well, let's see. We got Soma on the final fight now, yeah.
On Chaos, yep.
So he's getting set up on the first round. It looks like he's got double haste going here. So he's going to get the Warrior and the Thief hasted up in round 1.
Mm-hmm.
And nice physical on the White Mage to start. So that's going to speed things along. And he's still tonicking the Black Mage, even though he's got 250-ish.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Better safe than sorry.
And it definitely looks like he's got a Lordly on the Black Mage as well, because the Black Mage just took a regen.
I would personally giant tonic the Thief as well, because he's slightly under 300.
Yes, I would probably do that as well.
Yeah, I've seen bad things happen to thieves. There's that little.
It's probably only a problem if it gets to Cyclone, though.
Yeah.
Or a really bad crit. But he's on round 3. Everybody's hasted up, so he's pretty much in hold X to win mode here. We'll have to see what Chaos does. Bashing on the White Mage. It's not like Cooney today.
No.
No.
Ni no Kuni. I don't know what the bottom one is.
2. Ni no Kuni 2.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It just came out. I think it just came out.
Yeah, it came out a couple of days ago.
So we got a Tsunami here, which is going to hurt. Ooh, the Black Mage just barely...
The Thief, 8 HP.
Please no spell next round.
Yeah, if a spell comes up, that'll probably kill.
Yeah, he's just looking to dodge Cyclone here. He does not dodge Cyclone.
Cyclone. Oh. Yes,
Rip.
could be bad. Yeah.
No, he should be fine. It'll just slow him down a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's going to probably be Rip on the Thief. Almost certainly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Rip Thief.
So he's just
dance floor.
Yeah, he's gonna admire the floor from that angle. While everybody else just powers on.
Really close and personal with the floor.
Yeah, and the Warrior, the White Mage, and the Black Mage, they're not going to share any loot they find with him. There it is.
There we go. A very respectable time, considering that Soma got destroyed by RNG and had to, I believe, he died in a Ice Cavern, I believe.
Oh yes, he definitely wiped in Ice Cavern to... I don't even remember.
I think we're going to get Soma in here for an interview. Hello, Soma.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, congratulations on completing the run. No, it wasn't as fast as you wanted.
It was really difficult.
Yeah. I know it's not quite the way you wanted it, but congratulations on your win.
Yeah, but I shouldn't deserve this win.
Yeah, that was unfortunate cockatrices.
Yeah, unfortunately, Listra did.
Did he not safety save?
No, he didn't, no.
No.
He says that it's never safety saving Cavern before because it takes forever to save on console.
Oh, well now
So-
he's just
That's
learned why we do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the easiest way to negate that on a console is to basically delete a save or do some sort of
Yeah.
access of the save before you start the run. So that way it goes quicker during the run.
Right.
But that's something I've learned to do as well. But I've also lost a tournament run to cockatrices like that before. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
I
not
think
necessarily
I'll be
about
doing
what
that from now on.
Yeah, it's not necessarily about what you deserve, but it is, you have to find your way to get through the run.
Yeah.
So with that, it looks like Kib and Soma will be clashing in the next round.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And I'll be facing Stray.
And Stray will drop down to face Starcrawl. Let's see what Cleric's going to do. Cleric will join me in the loser bracket of having a great run, but not being good enough to win.
Well, I mean, it's
Good
it's
company.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as me. I went down on a rematch.
Yeah, but he will drop down to face Holy Smith next round, it looks like.
Okay.
So that'll be a pretty interesting match. Actually, a pretty even match, I think.
Hmm.
And then we'll have one more match this evening to determine who's moving, the last one moving on from the losers bracket, and that person will face me in the next round.
Uh-huh.
So.
Right.
But otherwise, I mean, obviously, I mean, everybody had really good runs today. Soma's was probably a little bit slower than you like or you're used to, but obviously RNG happens. It's
Yeah.
it's definitely not fun to deal with, but it happens.
Someone had to have a rubbish run today, and it was you, and you still won. So.
I mean, my run wasn't that good either. I did a run right before this race, and it wasn't that good. But I still beat Rename. So
we'll take this opportunity to thank everybody for tuning in, because I know there's quite a lot going on in Speed Gaming today, since I believe the link to the past tournament, the Major Glitches tournament, started today. So that's all over the place
Ooh,
on
that's
Speed Gaming.
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
in full swing, yeah.
Yeah, it just started and pushed us all the way down to Speed Gaming 5, but that's okay.
Oh, that's why we're on. Oh,
Yeah, we're not. Yeah,
stupid Zelda.
she's not stupid.
yeah,
That's
I
all right.
echo that. Thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks, everyone.
Those
Do you
are
guys
theirs.
want to do any shout outs?
Banzai. Shout out to Banzai.
Yeah, once again coming through.
Yeah, good old Banzai.
I will
Shout-
thank. I'll just take this quick opportunity to thank Fiesel and the Speed Gaming crew for hosting us today.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I mean, getting us in to the schedule is no easy feat at this point. There's so
For
many
sure.
things going on. So we always appreciate the help.
Shoutouts to huge PBs that still don't get you to win.
Shout outs to Cleric for being amazing and me
Yeah.
for being a horrible person.
I mean, Green, I had the same thing. I had in my race against Leo, I had a massive PB, but that doesn't even, that's not even in the tournament because I had a rematch. Like my PB literally counts for nothing in the tournament because of a rematch.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So thanks again, everybody here. If you're looking for more PSP action, there will be one more race tonight at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So I think that's probably 5 a.m. for some of our European folks, and maybe 8 o'clock on the west coast of US. But there'll be one last match here to round out this round, and then we'll be scheduling and planning our next round shortly. So we're working our way to a champion who's looking like Kib right now.
No.
But
Well, we'll see. Anything could happen. This is FF1.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Next race, it might be me that has the Soma run.
Yeah.
mm,
Or the Stray run. You never know.
Yeah, or that one. Yeah, that one's even worse.
yeah. But thanks again, everybody, for tuning in today. And we will see you soon for more races.
Night, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you all for watching.
Bye.